from various institutions, government officials, representatives from different think tanks, NGOs, journalists from different media outlets, colleagues from Asia Competitiveness Institute, colleagues from Nepal Institute for Policy Research, ladies and gentlemen. A warm greeting to each one of you. Welcome to the inaugural report launch of Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022. Our Deep Nepali, Research Officer at Nepal Institute for Policy Research, and on behalf of Nepal Institute for Policy Research and Asia Competitiveness Institute, I extend my sincere appreciation for your valuable presence at the event today. Nepal Competitiveness Index is a joint initiative of Nepal Institute for Policy Research (NIPOR) and Asia Competitiveness Institute (ACI) at the Nippon School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. The inaugural report of Nepal Competitiveness Index ranks Nepal's provincial governments using different metrics, and it intends to allow the major policy stakeholders in Nepal and beyond to better understand the competitiveness of Nepal's 7 provinces. Before starting this session formally, I would like to inform you all that today's event is divided into 2 sessions. First, the launch of the event and the presentation on major findings of the report, and second, the panel discussion. And I would also like to inform you all that today's event is also live on Facebook from NIPOR's official Facebook page. Now, without further ado, I would like to commence the event formally with the seating ceremony. For this, I would like to welcome the following dignitaries to place us at stage. Starting with the chief guest for today's event. I have this honor of inviting on stage respected Honorable Rishad Adhikari, Governor of Nepal Rashtra Bank, Government of Nepal, as a chief guest for this event. Unfortunately, our special guest for today's event, respected Muthu Kumar Marasinghe, sir, he couldn't join us as he has to attend some important parliament meeting. Now I'd like to welcome Dr. John Sriyalu, Senior Research Fellow at Asia Competitiveness Index, Asia Competitiveness Institute, Nippon School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. Likewise, I would like to invite on stage Dr. Viswas Cochin, sir, Executive Director at Institute of Integrated Development Studies and also an advisor at NIPOR. Likewise, I would like to request Mr. Jajan Mahal, Director at Nepal Institute for Policy Research. As now we are joined by dignitaries on stage in front, I would like to request Mr. Santosh Sharma Paul, co-founder at Nepal Institute for Policy Research, also the lead of Center for Strategic Studies, for his welcome address.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Governor of Nepal Rashtra Bank, Mohammed Prasad Adhikari, Senior Research Fellow and Assistant Director at Asia Competitiveness Index, National University of Singapore, Sang Sriyalu, our advisor and Chair of IIDS, Viswas, and our Director, Jajan Mahal. Our distinguished panelists and our colleagues from Asia Competitiveness Index, and all dignitaries will have accepted our invitation and attended today's seminar despite your busy schedule. And everybody joining us online via Facebook Live. A warm welcome to you all. On behalf of the Nepal Institute for Policy Research and Asia Competitiveness Institute, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all again. Nepal Institute for Policy Research is a private, independent, and non-partisan research think tank. We carry out various research and consultancy work in the field of public policy through our 4 centers: Center for Government Studies, Center for Human Development, Center for Economic and Inequality, and Center for Strategic Studies. Some of our key initiatives include Nepal Risk Outlook in collaboration with IIDS, Diplomats Forum in collaboration with Institute of Foreign Affairs, and Nepal Competitiveness Index in collaboration with ACI. NIPOR's goal is to generate data-driven policy debate, as we state in our tagline, Data Policy Insights. We identified the limited availability of data is a major problem for policymaking in Nepal. Even more concerning to us was the limited use of available data to identify problems, develop policies, and measure the effectiveness of such policies. At NIPOR, we hope to address some of those issues to the best of our capability. Nepal Competitiveness Index and today's seminar is born out of that need and the goal. Among the goals of federalization that we'll be talking about today, of Nepal's economic and political decentralization and taking service delivery closer to the people, even though all the social political considerations were also important. Part of the aim was to foster competition among provinces, as well as in terms of growth and delivery of better services. However, not all provinces have the same resources, be it natural, human, or financial. Some provinces have advantage in some areas, whereas the other provinces have advantage in other areas. In some cases, we have a good idea of which provinces are more competitive, such as, I don't think we need data to say Bagmati province is the most competitive province among the 7 provinces. However, such statements are largely based on limited data points, anecdotal evidence, and our own experience. We do not have an index which would aggregate the performance of these provinces across a range of indicators in a format which could be used to compare across the provinces. Now, to do so, we came up with Nepal Competitiveness Index. The index covers 4 environments: quality of life and infrastructure development, financial, business, and manpower conditions, governance and institutional setting, and macroeconomic stability, aggregating a total of 64 indicators in these 4 environments. The indicators provide a broader picture of each province's competitiveness and comparison to other provinces. It identifies the strengths and weaknesses of each province and identifies areas for policy interventions to improve their competitiveness. This is a new field of research in Nepal. Nepal's experiment with provincial system itself is only 5 years old. In this context, the research would not have been possible without our collaboration with Asia Competitiveness Institute at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy and National University of Singapore. The index is a result of our collaborative efforts. This is the inaugural publication, and hence we believe there are many areas we can improve the index in subsequent years. Therefore, we request you to provide your comments and feedback and request you to be improved as necessary. On this note, I'd like to welcome you all once again. We look forward to a meaningful and engaging seminar today. Thank you. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you very much, sir, for your welcome address. Now we have a video remarks by Dr. Soni Wagle. He is an advisor of Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022. The inaugural report of NCI 2022 was carried out under the direct supervision of Professor Dr. Paul Chang, Director at Asia Competitiveness Institute at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, and Dr. Soni Wagle, Chair of Institute of Integrated Government Studies, former Chief Economic Advisor at the UNDP Resident Bureau for Asia and the Pacific, former Vice Chairman and member of Nepal Planning Commission. Presenting you the video remarks by Dr. Wagle.
Namaste. My name is Swarnim Wagle and I'm very pleased to join you at this important policy event to launch the Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022. Immense congratulations to the Asia Competitiveness Institute at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy in Singapore and the Nepal Institute for Policy Research, Nipore, that is based in Kathmandu. I know it's been months in the making, if not years, and I'm sure the team of young researchers that worked on this is delighted that the report is finally out. As an advisor, so am I. Now, the notions of productivity and competitiveness are closely related. For decades, thanks to Michael Porter and others at the Harvard Business School, this issue of competitiveness, especially from a corporate lens, was intensely interrogated. But we're very happy in the development community when this topic sort of migrated into our sphere of influence and our area of knowledge. And Paul Krugman, the Nobel laureate, famously said that productivity isn't everything, but in the long run, it's almost everything, right? So if you care about raising standards of living in developing countries, there's no shortcut. There's no other way than to raise output per worker on a sustained basis over a long horizon, right? And so this is where this agenda of competitiveness and productivity. Now, productivity at the firm level is basically, very simply understood, is extracting more, doing things better from the same bundle of inputs. But competitiveness is sort of creating this enabling environment. So it goes beyond the firm, right? It's largely about an ecosystem. It's about creating that level playing field for entrepreneurs with talent, entrepreneurs with promise to really come and play by the rules of the game that are even, that are fair, that are supportive, that are very conducive to wealth creation. Now, in Nepal, we care about this topic deeply because we're one of the poorest countries in Asia. Our geography is remote, rugged terrain, distant from world and regional markets, distant from seaports. So all that adds to the cost of doing business, cost of transactions, cost of connectivity for our firms and for our entrepreneurs. Our institutions and the rules by which our firms have to play the business game, famously extractive in nature, and that all that adds to the cost of doing business. And even on the human resource front, there's a lot to be done, a lot to be desired, even though we've made fantastic progress over several decades, right? So the package of policy reforms that are aimed at creating this enabling environment, creating a location-specific competitive ambience for firms and entrepreneurs has to be attacked legislatively and operationally, right? Now, many of that can be done at the federal level, but there's so much to be done at the provincial level and at the municipal level. And this is where I think this report will make an important contribution through dozens of indicators, I think 64 indicators clustered around 11 sub-pillars and 4 major pillars. The agenda overall will accumulate towards educating the policymakers on where the major economic constraints are, nudge them in initiating reforms, and upon implementation, track and monitor and scrutinize the pace of progress in processes that are really data intensive and evidence driven. So this is really my hope, right? As Nepal enters into its second cycle of experimentation with federal level of federal governance, I hope analytical reports, data-driven, evidence-driven, methodological contributions like the one that we're making today will help improve economic governance in the country and enhance competitiveness, not just for firms, but also for that larger ecosystem, larger networks of forward and backward linkages, industries, job creation, SME growth, applied research on the part of higher academic institutions, etc. Right? So there's a lot of promise here, and I laud the effort of this very enterprising team, and I hope this can be continued and sustained into the future. So all my best wishes for the event today, and I hope to see the next iteration of the Nepal Competitiveness Index within a few years. Thank you so much.
This video remarks, the entire team of NCI, NIPOR and ACI is grateful to Dr. Watley for guiding us throughout the report and sending us this wonderful video remarks. Now, moving ahead with the remarks, I would like to welcome on stage respected Dr. Zhang Shuyao, Senior Research Fellow and Assistant Director of Programs at Asia Competitiveness Institute, Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honorable Governor, distinguished presenters, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to join you at the launch of the Nepal Competitiveness Index inaugural report in Kathmandu. Due to a short notice event, our director, Professor Paul Chong, couldn't join this event in person, but he has sent his warmest congratulations on this successful launch of the Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022. So this is a joint collaboration between the Asia Competitiveness Institute and the Nepal Institute for Policy Research. He has also sent me to deliver this speech on his behalf. So our research institute, Asia Competitiveness Institute, or in short ACI, is under Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. A think tank fully funded by the Singapore's Ministry of Trade and Industry. And we have started this competitiveness analytics since 2013, so it's been 10 years. So unlike two of the most highly cited this national level competitiveness studies, which are the World Competitiveness Yearbook, which is published by the International Institute for Management Development, or IMD, and the Global Competitiveness Report, which is published by this World Economic Forum, WEF. So unlike their studies, our study focus is on Asia, and most importantly, is on subnational level analysis. So we believe that this country level study may not be a comprehensive reflection of the development potential. So understanding the differential development stages at provincial level or at this subnational level is more important, not only to these local stakeholders, but also to international parties. So just for example, if you look at the GDP per capita of China in 2020, which is about 10,000 USD, which is relatively lower compared to the developed countries in Asia. For example, Singapore has a per capita GDP of about 60,000, and South Korea is about 30,000 USD. But if you look at the subnational level, if you look at the economic center of China, so we look at Shanghai province, the GDP per capita is actually 26,000 USD already, which is close to these developed nations already. So therefore, our ACI's research focus competitiveness analysis is really focused on the subnational level of China, India, and Indonesia. So we also examine these relative development attributes among these ASEAN countries, because Singapore is a small country, and then we don't really have subnationals, we don't have provinces. So therefore, we want to study, compare Singapore with the rest of the ASEAN 9 countries. So our report have been well received by the partners in these countries, and our reports have been well widely disseminated and widely discussed at seminars and forums. So especially for our Indonesia studies, so before this COVID pandemic, actually every year we'll travel to all the 36 provinces of Indonesia to present our provincial findings to their local government officials, to these professors and students at local universities, and also present to these business owners at APindo, which is the business association in Indonesia. So we will do this presentation to these three stakeholders in there. So this year we are very glad to extend our collaboration with Nepal and also Sri Lanka and Vietnam. So Nepal is of particular interest for our study because, first of all, Singapore and Nepal has strengthened the trade relations over the past few decades. And secondly, Nepal is a neighbor of China and India, which are the two countries we conduct annual studies every year. And last but not least, Nepal declared its federal democracy in 2015. And then it's have held its first general election in 2017. So the government have introduced these decentralization policies across these newly formed 7 provinces. So therefore, it is timely to discuss this competitiveness at subnational level of Nepal. So when we first started this project, this Madhya province is still named as Province 2. So now we are waiting for when will the Province 1 get a name. So we would like to see these social-economic development processes in these 7 newly formed provinces. This subnational analysis is also crucial for Nepal because the mountain regions are competitive in terms of tourism and maybe infrastructure, especially hoteling infrastructure services. But if we look at these plain areas, which is competitiveness in, which is more competitive in agricultural sector. So therefore, our study, this subnational study is necessary for policymakers to identify these sectorial strengths and address the imbalanced development among the provinces. So these information are also very important for private sector to make their investment decisions, and even for the general public, because for them to understand their living environment. So this is actually the motivation for us to start to collaborate with Nepal to initiate this research project. And ACI is very pleased to collaborate with Nepal Institute for Policy Research to produce this Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022. And this inaugural report is the first competitiveness analysis in Nepal, and we hope we could set a benchmark for these future subnational studies. So ACI's research methodology will provide policy recommendations based on what we call what-if simulation. And we hope these recommendations could help facilitate discussions of these future development strategies. So we hope this report also marks the beginning of an insightful journey to assess Nepal's subnational development. And we are looking forward to future collaborations with Nepal Institute of Policy Research. Last but not least, ACI will host a competitiveness conference in February 2023 next year. We have scheduled a session for Nepal group to present to Nepal Policy Research to present this study at the conference, and we would like to also discuss the competitiveness and digital competitiveness of China, India, Indonesia, and other countries. So we would like to invite all these interested parties to join our event, either in Singapore or virtual. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zhang, for your remarks. Thank you for introducing us briefly with ACI, Asia Competitiveness Institute, and its work so far. Moving ahead, I would like to request respected Dr. Vishwas Gopchan, sir, Executive Director at Institute of Integrated Development Studies and also an advisor at Nepal Institute for Policy Research, for his
respected Actually, namaste everyone. I'm sorry I'm a bit late, but I think I'm just on time to be here. I would like to congratulate Nepal Institute for Policy Research, and they have done an excellent job. What I've gone through their report, and they have done a lot of research and the work they've done on the different provinces. I would like to salute them for their hard work. I think I don't have much to say here. I would like to thank the team, and I would like to welcome everyone here. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your remarks. Now, for the special remark, I would like to request our chief guest for today's event, respected Mahaprasad Adhikari sir, Governor of Nepal National Bank.
आज मलाई यो अलिकति नौलो अत्यन्तै इन्ट्रेस्टिङ कार्यक्रम लागेर मैले यहाँको आमन्त्रणलाई स्वीकार गरेँ र यहाँ आइरहेको छु। सर्वप्रथम यो सहभागिताको लागि मलाई एकदमै खुसी लागेको छ। नेपालकै संस्थाले यहाँ चाहिँ यो पोलिसी इन्स्टिट्युट यहाँले जुन खडा गर्नुभएको छ, अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय संस्था एसिया कम्पिटेटिभ इन्स्टिट्युटसँगको कोलाबोरेसनमा हाम्रो नेपाल कम्पिटेटिभनेस इन्डेक्स 2022 रिलेटेड रिपोर्ट चाहिँ लन्च गर्न गइराख्नु भएको छ। यो अवसरमा मलाई आमन्त्रण गर्नुभयो चिफ गेस्टको रूपमा। त्यसमा हार्दिक आभार व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु र धन्यवाद व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु सबै पदाधिकारी साथीहरूलाई, आयोजक साथीहरूलाई। नेपालको सन्दर्भमा हामी कहाँ छौँ भनेर अरू विभिन्न किसिमका इन्डेक्सहरू युज टु सी इन केस अफ ग्लोबल कम्पिटेटिभ इन्डेक्स, डुइङ बिजनेस इन्डेक्स, ह्युमन रिसोर्स इन्डेक्स, etc. तर आन्तरिक रूपमा नेपाल भित्रै सङ्घीयता आइसकेपछि सब नेसनल लेभलमा प्रदेशको बिचमा यो एक आपसमा हामी कहाँ छौँ त भन्ने सन्दर्भमा सरकारी लेभलमा विभिन्न किसिमका स्टडी नेपाल राष्ट्र बैङ्कले पनि आफ्नो प्रादेशिक कार्यहरू मार्फत प्रदेशहरूको त्यो अध्ययन गरेर एक खालको रिपोर्टहरू हामी हेर्ने गर्थ्यौँ, हामी निकालिरहेका हुन्थ्यौँ। तर यसरी इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट रूपमा प्राइभेट रिसर्चरहरूले यस्तो खालको इन्डेक्स, यस्तो खालको रिसर्च कमै गरेको हामीले पाइरहेको यस्तो रिसर्चबाट चाहिँ हामीलाई अझै बेसी इनपुटहरू मिल्छ। रिसर्च बेस्ड पोलिसीहरू बनाउने सन्दर्भमा चाहे केन्द्रीय ब्याङ्कले आफ्ना पोलिसीहरू बनाउने सिलसिलामा भनौँ अथवा रिसोर्सेसहरू एलोकेट गर्ने सिलसिलामा भनौँ, त्यसैगरी नेपाल सरकारले आफ्नो रिसोर्सेसहरू एलोकेट गर्ने सिलसिलामा भनौँ अथवा अघि डाक्टर जानले भने जस्तै निजी क्षेत्र प्राइभेट सेक्टरले आफ्नो इन्भेस्टमेन्टको डाइरेक्सन लैजाने सिलसिलामा भनौँ, यो खालको स्वतन्त्र स्वायत्त रिपोर्टहरूको भ्यालु अत्यन्तै बेसी रहन्छ। हामीलाई पनि पोलिसी निर्माण गर्नमा यस्तो खालको रिसर्च, यस्तो खालको स्टडी, त्यो चाहिँ ग्रासरुटको डेटाहरू कलेक्सन गरेर एनालाइज गरेर एउटा नम्बरमा प्रोभिन्सहरूलाई विभिन्न एरियामा ढालिराख्नु भएको हुन्छ। त्यसले हामीलाई धेरै सहज पुर्याउँछ। यस अर्थमा पनि यो कामको लागि म फुल टिमलाई नेपाल इन्स्टिट्युट फर पोलिसी रिसर्च र यसको समग्र अध्ययन गर्ने रिसर्चरहरूलाई म हार्दिक धन्यवाद र यो आउटकमको लागि हार्दिक बधाई पनि ज्ञापन गर्न चाहन्छु। र यहाँहरूले भोलिका दिनमा पनि यसै गरी बाहिरी इन्स्टिट्युटहरूसँग कोलाबरेट गर्दै यस्ता रिसर्च रिपोर्टहरू बाहिर ल्याउनु हुनेछ भन्ने आशा राख्दछु र शुभकामना पनि व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। रिपोर्ट डिटेल त हेरिएको छैन, त्यही पनि सरस्वती हेर्दाखेरि यसले मुख्य 4वटा क्षेत्रहरूलाई यहाँले कभर गरिसक्नु भएको छ। म्याक्रो इकोनोमिक स्टेबिलिटी, गभर्नमेन्ट इन्स्टिट्युसनल सेटिङ के भएको छ प्रत्येक प्रदेशमा, फाइनेन्सियल बिजनेस र मेन पावरको कन्डिसन, त्यस्तै गरी क्वालिटी अफ लाइफ र इन्फ्रास्ट्रक्चरको अवस्था। यहाँले 64वटा इन्डिकेटरहरूको आधारमा मूल्याङ्कन गरेको देखिन्छ। मलाई लाग्छ यो निकै कम्प्रिहेन्सिभ छ र प्रदेशहरूको अवस्था, कुन प्रदेश एभरेज बिलो एभरेज छन्, कुन प्रदेशहरू अबोभ एभरेज छन्, कुन इन्डिकेटरमा, यसले क्लियर पिक्चर हामीलाई दिइरहेको छ। मैले अघि भने जस्तै यो रिपोर्ट हाम्रा लागि, खास गरी सरकारी निकायका लागि पनि निकै महत्त्वपूर्ण छ। नेपालको सन्दर्भमा यहाँ म उभिराख्दाखेरि यहाँले केही आर्थिक अवस्थाको बारेमा पनि बुझ्न खोजिराख्नु भएको पक्कै हुन सक्छ। अहिले संसार नै कुनै न कुनै किसिमको आर्थिक हिसाबले दबावमा छ। एक खालको स्ट्यागफ्लेसन, मुद्रास्फीति माथि रहने तर ग्रोथ चाहिँ सोचेभन्दा तल रहने स्थितिहरू हामी संसारभरिका अधिकांश मुलुकहरूको अवस्था पाउँछौँ। नेपाल कुनै न कुनै रूपमा बाह्य क्षेत्रको दबावको फलस्वरूप, त्यसै गरी अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय इन्फ्लेसन चाहिँ बढ्दै गएको दबावको फलस्वरूप हामी पनि त्यही खालको सिचुएसनहरूमा मडाइरहेका छौँ। होला राज्यको एक्सपेक्टेसन, आकाङ्क्षा यो परिस्थितिलाई पनि सुधार गरेर लैजाने र राम्रो ग्रोथ एचिभ गर्ने र इन्फ्लेसनलाई पनि एउटा निश्चित लेभलमा कन्टेन गर्ने छ। विषयवस्तु निकै चुनौतीपूर्ण छन्। समग्र आर्थिक स्थायित्व अहिलेको लागि निकै चुनौतीपूर्ण छ। खास गरी हामीलाई अहिले भइरहेको व्यापार घाटा, त्यस्तै गरी चालु खाता घाटा, त्यसको असर स्वरूप आएको चाहिँ चालु खाता घाटा र पिओपी डेफिसिट आदि इत्यादिको असर समग्र ब्याङ्किङ क्षेत्र र समग्र अर्थतन्त्रमा पर्दै गएको छ। प्राइसको असर स्वाभाविक समग्र अर्थतन्त्रमा पर्दै गएको छ। यी कुरालाई एड्रेस गर्ने गरी हामी इन्टरनल एक्सर्साइज गरिरहेछौँ। त्यस्तो हात दिनुपर्ने अवस्था नरहे पनि हामी सजग हुनुपर्ने, सतर्क हुनुपर्ने अवस्था समग्र आर्थिक स्थितिले, बाह्य र आन्तरिक स्थितिहरूले देखाइरहेको कुरो पनि म यहाँ निवेदन गर्न चाहन्छु। हामी अहिले मौद्रिक नीति 79-80 को तयारीको क्रममा छौँ। निकट भविष्यमै त्यो ल्याउने छौँ। त्यो नीति ल्याइराख्दा पनि मलाई लाग्छ यो खालको रिसर्च स्टडी विल हेल्प अ लट। अहिले यहाँले पब्लिस गर्नु भइसकेपछि अझै डिटेलमा त्यसलाई हेर्ने मौका पाउने छौँ। हाम्रो सम्बन्धित डिपार्टमेन्टले पनि यसलाई चाहिँ एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण इनपुटको रूपमा लिनुहुनेछ। अन्तमा मुलुकको चाहिँ प्रस्तुत आर्थिक अवस्थालाई दृष्टिगत गर्दा समेत नेपाल इन्स्टिट्युट फर पोलिसी रिसर्चले यति मेहनत गरेर जुन अध्ययन गरेर तयार गर्नुभएको छ यो प्रतिवेदन, यसले देशमा भर्खरै सुरु भएको यो संहिताको अभ्यासलाई थप बलियो बनाउन, थप कन्क्रिटाइज गर्न र आगामी दिनमा चाहिँ प्रदेशहरू बीच एक आपसमा विकासको लागि, सुशासनको लागि प्रतिस्पर्धा गर्न यी डेटाहरूले, यसका तथ्याङ्कहरूले थप प्रशस्त सहयोग चाहिँ गर्ने चाहिँ आशा हामीले गरेका छौँ। यति भन्दै पुनः यो इनिसिएटिभको लागि म इन्स्टिट्युट परिवारलाई हार्दिक बधाई र धन्यवाद दिँदै यो खालको इनिसिएटिभ्स भोलिको दिनमा निरन्तरता रहोस्, यहाँको जोस सागर निरन्तर रहोस् भन्ने शुभकामना सहित बिदा हुन चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद, नमस्कार।
Thank you very much, respected sir, for your valuable remarks and good wishes. We're really grateful for your presence today here at the event. Now, we'll move ahead with the main attraction of today's event, the most important part of today's event, which is the launch of inaugural report of Nepal Competitiveness Institute Index 2022. We'll be launching the report by unveiling the report itself, which is in the book form. Guest, respected Mahaprasad Adhikari, Governor of Nepal Master Bank. And to join him, I'd like to request respected Dr. Chang Shuao, Senior Research Fellow at ACI, Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. Also, I'd like to request respected Dr. Viswas Lochin, Sir, Executive Director at IBS and Advisor at Nepal Institute for Policy Research. Likewise, I'd like to request respected Basa Shrestha Ma'am, and valuable advisor of Nepal Institute for Policy Research and a business head at ICRA Nepal. And to help us with the book launch event, I'd like to request my colleagues from Nepal, Ms. Sanjana Karki and Sabit Vidwal. Now we are moving ahead with the presentation. And to walk us through the main findings of the report, I'd like to request my colleague, Mr. Ankush Shrestha. He is a research officer at NCI and Nepal, and he is also a co-editor of this inaugural report of Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022.
Respected Governor of the Nepal Master Bank, distinguished panelists, our colleagues from ACI and Nigore, and everyone present here today. Good afternoon. I, Ankush Shrestha, will today be talking about how and why this study was done, touch a bit on the methodology, and present some key findings from our year-long study and the final report that was just launched. So let me begin today's presentation. Our report, aptly titled Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022, supporting Nepal's journey towards effective planning, was conducted because we found a gap in current research studies. Different measures of competitiveness are conducted, but only at the country level. Our first of a kind study in Nepal, together with the Asian Competitiveness Institute, ACI, studied the competitiveness of the various provinces to understand how we are faring after Nepal went into the federal structure in 2017. Our study aims to identify the places of policy interventions, quantify measures of competitiveness, and justify logical arguments made to serve the betterment of the provinces. And now move ahead with the brief methodology of the study. So as you can see, the NCI methodology that was adopted from ACI and localized to meet the Nepali context has 4 environments. These 4 environments are namely macroeconomic stability, government and institutional setting, financial businesses and manpower conditions, and quality of life and infrastructure development. So these 4 environments are further subdivided into 11 sub-environments, making a total of 64 total indicators. We've used an equal weights methodology, meaning each environment takes up 25% of the total score to provide the total outcome. I'm not going to the complete methodology in my presentation, but you can look through it later on the report itself. We also did a simulation analysis. So this simulation analysis helped us figure out which are the low performing indicators for each province and what will happen if those indicators perform better. The simulation therefore helps us draw real data-driven insights, like the Chief Guest previously mentioned, into identifying specific policy interventions to make the provinces more competitive. The data that we have taken for the study is the 2 years immediately after federalization, 2018 and 2019. This was taken because for most of our indicators, there was no data available for years beyond these. We also acknowledge that COVID-19 has played a large part in decreasing the competitiveness of the provinces. We have dedicated a chapter in the report, taking certain major indicators and looking at them to see what the effects were at the provincial level. However, the analysis will surely be better in further iterations of the report as we get more data from the census and other reports done by different organizations, and we will incorporate this into our study next year. Now, I'll just touch up a bit on what the general 4 environments were before moving on to the analysis part. So the first environment, macroeconomic stability, provides a broad measure of economic progress. It takes into account the heavy dependence of Nepal on foreign aid, FDI, and tourism, and looks at the effects at the provincial level. It also considers indicators such as GDP and its subsequent divisions, primary, secondary, and tertiary shares contribution in the overall state GDP. The second environment, government and institutional setting, looks at the stability of overall governance system of the provinces and those related to key public institutions. It also measures the economic vibrancy of the province and job creation through number of companies registered, government revenue, tax revenue, and such. The third environment, financial, businesses, and manpower conditions, captures details on people's access to financial resources and services. It also considers the overall labor market's situation together with the possibilities for capacity enhancement. So indicators such as total workers, labor productivity, number of bank offices, number of training institutes all fall into this category. The fourth environment, quality of life and infrastructure development, contains social indicators such as health, education that are indispensable in helping incorporate aspects of the standard of living of the citizens. In addition to this, aspects of both physical and technological infrastructure development are considered. It has indicators such as electricity uses, number of schools, student-teacher ratios, health expenditure in education, and the like. I'll now move on to the key findings of our study based on 2019 data. So, the overall ranking stands like you see on the screen, and like previously mentioned by Santosh, we see that Bagmati ranks number 1, while Karnali lags behind out of all the provinces. The other provinces in order are Province 1, Lumbini, Gandaki, Sudar Paschim, and Madhesh. The findings are mostly obvious because we saw centralized governance structure for a number of years before we came into federalization just recently. So now let's move on to the environment-wise rankings. You may notice as we move ahead in the environment rankings as well, Bagmati continues to remain first across all environments. In the macroeconomic stability environment, Madhesh comes in second, even though it lags behind in other environments, while Lumbini also performs well. So specifically, Madhesh leaves all others far behind in its cargo handling capacity, while Lumbini comes second. Both provinces can use this capacity to turn themselves into major industrial hubs, as they can provide easy access to external markets such as India, while already having good road networks because they are mostly based on Tarai. In the second environment, we see the rankings here. Bagmati is far ahead again of the other provinces in the number of companies registered, both public, private, and foreign, and the number of NGOs registered in the province. Additionally, next slide. Additionally, Karnali and Sudar Paschim in the provinces. In the third environment, we see Madhesh, Karnali, and Sudar Paschim all lag behind in competitiveness. Although they all lag behind, there are different issues that we are addressing in labor-related indicators. So, for Madhesh, it has a very high urban unemployment issue with very low labor productivity. This can be linked with the first environment where we talked about how Madhesh needs to leverage its close position to India in attacking industries. So, if Madhesh is able to do that, the urban unemployment rate might decrease. Furthermore, while Karnali and Sudar Paschim meanwhile face issues of shortage of labor, workers in Karnali and Sudar Paschim are found to be temporarily migrating to India for seasonal employment, resulting in a net shortage of workers at home. While this has resulted in a lower unemployment rate like we saw previously, the cause for concern is the number of available workers to contribute in development activities in the province itself. Creating opportunities for employment in the province by establishing industries for niche products such as medicinal and aromatic plants, MAPs, can help citizens get better opportunities close to home. Additionally, policies that provide increased safety nets for workers in times of crisis, like we saw during COVID, and worker protection mechanisms can also help retain domestic labor for those provinces. In the last environment, quality of life and infrastructure development, Gandaki ranks the second, while Madhesh ranks sixth. If we look specifically in the education sector, we see Gandaki has the potential to improve massively. So these indicators are both reversed, meaning the higher the number, the worse the performance. because one is the student-teacher ratio, where in Gurundapur, for the secondary level, we see that we have one teacher for 18 students, while in Madhes, a teacher needs to accommodate around 52 students. So we see Gandhari as a very high student-to-teacher ratio, but needs to invest more if it wants to decrease its illiteracy rate and make education accessible to rural parts of the province. Madhes, meanwhile, has a very high literacy rate or a low illiteracy rate, and what does very poorly across all other indicators of education. One hypothesis that we can derive from the data is then that people in Madhesh travel to other provinces or to India to receive education. Infrastructural investments, therefore, can help massively decrease the cost of education for citizens in Madhesh. So this is the end of my presentation. If you have any queries or comments, please feel free to email me at the link mentioned. Thank you once again for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ankur, for sharing the interesting and valuable findings of the inaugural report of Nepal Competitiveness Index 2022. With Ankur's presentation, we come to the end of first session. Now we enter the second session, which is a panel.
And we will try to relate the key issues that provincial governments have been facing and that we have identified in our study, and discuss with some of the representatives coming from key policy stakeholders in the country. And for that, first of all, I'd like to invite Dr. Vishwas Gausan on the dais. So Dr. Gausan is the director of IIDS, one of the oldest think tank in the country, which has been active for past 43 years and which has been evaluating currently to meet the 21st century needs, policy needs that I think Nepal needs at the moment to have better public policies in the future. And second, I would like to invite Barsha Krishnaman. She is working with ICRA Nepal as a business head. They are responsible for providing, assessing overall performance and providing ratings to different public and private companies in Nepal. So that way, I think they are, we could say that they are helping the key institutions in Nepal to make them more accountable and credible when it comes to investment and the performance. And third, I would like to invite Mr. Rohit Gupta, who is Vice President of Confederation of Nepali Industries, and he has been quite active for more than a decade now, promoting entrepreneurship across the country, and I think he has been investing a lot of time networking with young people and motivating them to get into entrepreneurship. I think and that is the thing we need right now to make sure that we could see more and more entrepreneurs in the future. And for Prof. Saki, unfortunately, I think there are some student-teacher issues ongoing at the Tribhuvan University, so the office is currently, I think, backed up. So because of that, she could not attend the program, but she has sent us best wishes. And for the study, we have been collaborating with Asia Competitive Institute based in Singapore. Representing the institute, we have Dr. Amal George, who has previously been engaged in similar study for India. So right now, we also wanted to hear her insights and her experience when she was working on India report. Welcome on stage. we also, I think, respected governor had also identified the current economic condition of the country. So we have been going to one of the toughest time in modern history in terms of economy and other performance. But today we won't focus on that. We wanted to focus on the competitiveness analysis at the provincial level and what the key stakeholders have been working, policy stakeholders have been working in Nepal, and what would be the other things that the key policy stakeholders representing different sectors from Nepal can overcome to better ameliorate or improve the overall quality of provincial competitiveness. So for that, we have Varsha Krishnaman, who represents private sector and who also happens to be board advisor. And then we have Amun George, Dr. Amun George, who represents academia sector and think tank, global think tank. Then we have Rohit Guptaji, who comes from private sector and who has been heavily engaged in entrepreneurship related activities. Then finally we have Dr. Vishwas Gurjan, who has been who has more than 15-20 years of experience working across continents, including in Africa with United Nations and other commercial banks and educational institutions. And right now, he has been one of the key individuals behind reinventing IIDS for the upcoming needs that Nepal needs in terms of policy inputs. So just to begin with, maybe I will start with Dr. Amu. So I think Amu, again, thanks for accepting our invitation to be on the panel. And since we are closely working with the ACI team, specifically your team, to conduct the analysis for Nepal, right? So I just wanted to ask you what are your experiences working with similar study for India, and are there any, and since you have already gone through the Nepal report, so are there any similarities or are there any strong differences between the report that we have produced for India and Nepal? And then again, it's a kind of emerging economy issue. So whenever you go to any emerging economy, you will see they suffer across multiple sectors. So one being the education sector, right? Education and research sector. We really don't give that much of value to the quality research and academic work in those countries. And I think Nepal and India being in that particular category, we also suffer the similar. We suffer from similar issues. And right now, since you are working with AGI, so what do you think? Could be the way that local think tanks. So I think I could see a lot of respected guests representing think tank and similar research institution and academia in the audience. So maybe they might be interested in further improving their overall research, the quality of their overall research and analysis. Are there any tips that you would like to offer to them from your experience so far? Thank you.
Okay, that's a lot of questions here. Interesting. In ACI, I work on India Competitiveness Index. So every year we come out with a book assessing how the provinces in India fare competitively. Apart from the competitiveness, we also do a lot of thematic research, drilling down to specific aspects of competitiveness. Like it could be foreign direct investments, it could be about finance, fintech. So anything, something like very forward-looking research topics. So we drill down on the topic, which is very important for the economy at that point of time. So at ACI, we do both. We do a general perspective as well as a very micro perspective. We drill down to specific aspects of research that have far-fetched implications of the competitiveness of some national economies. Now, with regard to your question on what the local think tanks can watch, from my experience in ACI would be collaborate a lot more with global think tanks, with global universities, because we have a lot of experience in handling subnational studies. So as Dr. Shang mentioned in his speech, we do subnational studies for India, Indonesia and China. So our research expertise in identifying the right methodology, or it could be that very simple things like if you don't have the data, if you have data constraints, how we would handle the study, what is the solution taking the study forward. So those issues we can help in, the collaboration would be key there. But of course, global think tanks alone cannot do all this subnational research because the local think tanks play significant role because you work on the ground, you understand what the situation is, what the relevant issues are at a provincial level. So yesterday I was speaking with Jaya and he mentioned that all the researchers in his institute travel widely across Nepal to understand, what is the situation or conducting surveys for projects. So we need to have a very vertical as well as a horizontal perspective, right? So investing in talent is another area I think we should definitely focus on. A lot more training, bring them up to global standards. And also present, so if you have some national studies, you have a lot of results, make sure that the results are known to a global audience. So go to conferences, present some findings, get the feedback, incorporate them into the studies. Like today, the conference here, Ankur presented the findings. We have conveyed the results to a larger audience, the stakeholders from private sector, academia, government. So disseminating the findings to a larger audience is also very important. So I would say we should continue this trajectory and ACF looks very forward to continue the collaboration with the board for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe I think I will go to Dr. Watson since he has been engaged in some of the crucial works. Being someone who works in think tank in Nepal, I could understand the history of here going to right now to read with the entire institution that has more than 4 decades of historical legacy. So I think the other key thing that I quite often hear whenever I go to some of the events and networking meetings and some of the kind of semi-formal events with colleagues from think tanks, then the one common complaint that I hear is that the key policy stakeholders in Nepal and other emerging economies, they do not hear the opinions and findings shared by the think tanks, independent think tanks. So I mean, being someone who is working with IIDs, so I just wanted to check with you what is your experience so far in terms of sharing your independent and non-partisan research and analysis across different public policy sectors from Nepal, and how have you been preparing to make sure that in the coming years, maybe 5, 10 or 15 years down the road, there will be more people or more policy stakeholders, they will be interested in research and analysis done by think tanks than they will today. Maybe I will start there.
Okay, thank you, Jayaji. It's a wonderful question that you have put across. And it's very relevant in current context. And you rightly said that we don't have a culture of, evidence-based policy making in the country. And that's very sad part. And it is manifested in many forms. And some of the very important policies that the government comes up with on a regular basis, like fiscal policy, monetary policy, and other policies. You clearly see there's a huge detachment from evidence-based kind of influence that's needed in that process. If you take the example of recently approved fiscal policy in the form of budget of next year, you can clearly see the huge gap. And I think most of the programs there, most of the ideas there has no backing of any sort of evidence there. And that's very sad part. And you don't see this in the fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is every year, even in such an important, important document like 5 years development plan that we had last time was 15-year development plan. And if you see the different aspects of our 15-year plan, also you can see lots of areas where absolutely those targets, those ideas were never supported by any evidence. And that's the very sad part of how the policy making
happens in Nepal. And in order to guide that process, I think we think tanks have to be very vocal. And I'm starting seeing some evolution in this process, especially with the help of media, because now media has become very vibrant and they are picking up new ideas, which is very good thing. And they are picking up ideas which is very new, innovative, and they are constantly pursuing those ideas. And I think that is the way to, move ahead to change this culture of not, trying to take the help of the evidence-based policy making. And in every cases, and the devil is always in the details, and to unlock those specificities, I think we need to do a very extensive research. We need to gather lots of evidence, and that's where we need data. And I think rightly, our chief guest today, Governor mentioned about the lack of data that we have, and that's one area that the tanks really have to work together. I could see many areas, and we should not be only complaining the government and different institutions, one by government. I think we need to be proactive as a think tank, and I think and all the stakeholders has to collaborate. It's not only the responsibility of government to address those issues. I think the private sector has to be equally there, and also the academic institution has to be there. And I think this is where we need lots of collaboration. And I think in many cases, what I think is that the local institution, the think tanks, has to take the lead. I think that's completely absent in our case. Very sadly, the process is driven by donor agencies, and I think we have to challenge that, and we have to change that. Otherwise, we will just continue doing what we have been doing, and that's not good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vasu. Then on social media, and most of the debates they were focused on climate change. And 10 years after that period, so right now I could see the debates of entrepreneurship and being self-reliant or self-initiating some ideas has been the fashion I currently work, right? And since you are one of the very few individuals who comes from private sector and who has been working with entrepreneurship and promoting and your fellow citizens to start something on their own with their own ideas, with funding either from their own or and also taking support from outside, right? So I think I also wanted to check and what are your experience so far? Will you remain engaged in those activities? And what are your impressions from the possible entrepreneurs that you meet and interact with them? Right? Maybe you could say a little bit of that would be helpful for us.
Nepal competitive index report, I think this will also enable private sector to go a long way when we are making an initiative, because the dignitaries mentioned in Nepal we are more for perception driven than data driven, so I think it can be a new beginning for from us. So thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. So see, the thing is, I would say Nepal right now, we are on a very nascent stage when we talk about the creation of entrepreneurial ecosystem. Because if you see, as a whole, we have not been aware on making conducive entrepreneurship policies or encouraging youth to maybe not migrate and stay back and their families to support them financially, to maybe help start a business. So I mean, until I would say, until 3 years ago, even government did not have any focus on creating entrepreneurial ecosystem. The good thing was, 2 years before, in their budget, government did announce for a challenge fund of rupees, 100 crores, wherein they plan to, give a soft loan at 1% to, new startup ideas from across the country, to the tune of 25 lakh rupees. But due to some or other reason, that particular policy went on from one department to the other, and then finally, it's closed out. Again, in this budget, government has spoken about soft loan, creating incubation centers. So what I mean to say is like, it should not be down, it should also be walked. So I think that is where we are lacking. But however, on the other side, if you see, like, I've been in Nepal for around 15 years now, and with my entrepreneurial journey. But it is so, spirited to see, these days, if I go out, outside Kathmandu or within Kathmandu, we see a lot of new restaurants, a lot of new things, lot of new ideas that all these entrepreneurs are building, and they have the strength and courage to actually seed fund them with their own money or with the money borrowed from their friends or family. So I think that is beginning to show. But the thing is, all this 99% of these ideas or their thought is blurred out if they do not have a support from the wider ecosystem, which is the government, which is the private sector like us, which is the mass audience. So I think that is where the lack is. And we at CNI we organized Startup Fest, a couple of weeks back, and we are so amazed that we had over 5,000 participants, from schools, colleges, entrepreneurs themselves in that fest, and to our surprise, most of them were willing to sit inside a hall like this and listen to all the panelists speaking about startups, speaking about entrepreneurship, and I mean, when we saw that, then we came to realize that we still have a huge young force in Nepal whom if they are given a chance and opportunity or at least an environment, they would definitely want to maybe stay back and start with their own ideas, and then it depends on the society of us as a whole on how we are able to nurture and take their ideas forward.
But ultimately, if we have to improve overall competitiveness of the province and the federal government, we need money, right? Definitely money. And at the same time, we also need some credible and well-governed institutions across sectors. So I think Varshan, since is working on something related, not directly on that, but I think it's open issues which are responsible for managing finance and also at the same time improving overall governance and public credibility of the institutions. So given the, just to highlight one more thing before I ask a question to Varshan. So Varshan also has contributed one specific section for the current report. So that time, we were looking for someone who was working on providing rating to public and private institutions in the country and try to see how COVID has affected the overall rating compared to the previous year. And Prasad Ma'am has provided an insightful input to the report, which we can go through later on. So coming back to the questions, so ma'am, from your experience and working with stakeholders and actors or individual and institutional partners from different sectors, how do you see and how do you see the overall competitiveness of those institutions? Because before we move ahead and make intervention to improve competitiveness of the provinces, I think first we need to improve overall competitiveness of the institutions, right? So how do you see the current level of competitiveness of the institutions? And do you see any reflection of those institutional competitiveness on the provincial governments that we have come up with in our history?
Thank you, Jalaji. Thank you so much for your good words also for me. Regarding competitiveness in the provinces, actually the rating, what we are doing right now is for borrowing customers who are borrowing more than 50 crore of rupees, they have to be rated, so we are doing so. And for any equity instruments also we are rating. So far, the ratings we have done is, though the industry, the factories are in different provinces, but the headquarters is in Kathmandu. So the management and everything happens to be here. But what happens is, like when we are doing the rating, definitely we look into different aspects. The factories, how it is running, what is the product, like what is the market it has, etc., etc. So we advise them what it is. So every industry or the institutions that are being rated, all their strengths and weaknesses or aspects that has to be improved, we mention to them, and it gets published also. So we do have detailed interaction with the management team also of every institution. So that has been definitely supporting them. But here in Nepal, what is happening is like, for any company to be rated, they feel it's kind of a burden because they have to pay the fee and they have to give time to the rating company, they have to show their reports, etc., etc., etc. So that is kind of a hindrance for us, giving information and all that. But now slowly it is coming into practice, and at the same time, because NRB, Rashtra Bank, has compelled those institutions to be rated, so they are in the process, but at the same time they do take some time. Regarding provinces, what we have, besides being rated or talking about the rating, what I would like to add is definitely like province number 2 and 5, UK 8, skill improvement employment program that has gone into different provinces, especially number 2 and 5, where they do teach, they have collaborated with different banks and different institutions. So there is a lot of work being done on literacy, financial literacy, and for the migrant workers, where they get the loan, where they have been trained, and even the skills being given, training being given by different institutions. So all that is happening. But at the same time, for any institutions being rated would definitely benefit because they know where they stand in the in the industry for any product. So that's how it is going on. I think I would like to stop here. Like not much to collaborate, to relate with rating in the provinces for the time being, except Bhagmati.
Thank you, ma'am. So before we go for second round of questions, I would like to remind again that if you have any questions to the panelists, feel free to raise your hand and our colleagues will come to collect your questions. And just to make sure that we'll be able to save time for all of us, we'll be trying to address all the questions for the end of the day and maybe after the second round of the questions. Thank you. And maybe again, I think I will come back to Dr. Thompson. So again, I mean like whenever I think we are engaged in policy research, activities research and analysis, so unlike other private companies which produce goods and services for the individual customers, so we normally don't have such types of beneficiaries, targeted beneficiaries. So the prime beneficiaries that we aim for are the key policy stakeholders, mostly the government one, the development partners who have been investing their huge resources and their time planning and executing programs, and the private sector which also happen to be the broad line of any country's economy. So I'm like, given the scenario right now in Nepal, I think we also try to address some of the aspects of the earlier questions, but also I'm like, we'll be more than happy to hear from you about the overall receptiveness of those three target groups that we normally aim to produce some independent and non-partisan insights or outputs, and how and like how they receive our work as of now, and are there any ways like given their experience with institutions in Africa and other countries in Asia. So do you see any kind of outstanding sort of collaboration between think tanks and other key policy stakeholders in those countries which we can employ so that in the future whenever think tanks by using I think a good amount of data and with I think some sort of innovations in their methodology and analysis, if they could produce something exciting for the government stakeholders and the key other stakeholders, including those from development partners and private sector, would come to seek those resources from you. So rather than you sending your findings to them, they will come and approach you for the findings. Can we, do you have any experience on that? Thank you.
Regarding the receptiveness of different stakeholders, who are basically policymakers, it's a mixed. It's mixed because in the recent times, I could see private sectors forthcoming in terms of the research and the insights that we are providing. to the larger audience in the areas of policy as to which are the areas where we need to do reforms. And they also are willing to collaborate. But also we should keep on, telling them the importance of collaboration and why they themselves have to be very responsible. Because normally in the context of Nepal, what I tend to hear and tend to see is that lots of complaints always against government, different agencies of government, and it doesn't work that way. I think it is the shared responsibility, and especially at times when we are going through economic challenges that we are facing for the last several months. And this is a time where we have to work together. And in these times, as a think tank, both institutionally and as individual different staff members that we are working on ideas, we are trying to, set some ideas. And as I said earlier, that those have been picked up by media, and there's some kind of receptiveness on that part, and I could see that some of the medias are also, giving us some feedback about how those ideas have been picked up by the policymakers, especially from the government side, including the central bank, and that's good news. And basically, the purpose of doing this evidence-based policy making is to try to influence so that our analysis if you talk about IITs, we are already in that transformation process. Being a think tank, we think that we have to change the way that we have been doing our work for the last 40 years, and we are in the process of that transformation. And we have already identified 3 dozen areas that's priority for the country. And probably most of the donors have never heard about those ideas. And we are leaders. We have to act like a third leaders. We just simply cannot afford to act like a consultancy firm, and that's what we have been doing. And our whole development domain is such that we local institutions are acting like a consultancy firm, and on behalf of the imported ideas, on behalf of international agencies, and we have to change that course. And if you have the capacity to do that, and you have a wonderful team with you, and probably we can do that. And that's the, I think, new narrative that we have to set. Otherwise, we already have 50 years of, ODA, overseas development assistance that we have been receiving. But what about the changes in the lives of the people? Have you seen that? Yes, there is of course some social, progress made in many areas. But what about the economic changes in the lives of the people? Have you seen that? Probably not. So I think we need to challenge the status quo and local institutions because of the sustainability issue, because we have very less overhead, we have great ideas, our international partners have resources. Let's work together, but on an equal footing. We are part of that same, areas, and we are team members on an equal footing. This hierarchy-based system of donors and recipients has to change if we want to make a dent in the economic progress of the country.
They feel that researchers both in think tank, not only in Nepal but also across the world. So I think from our experience we have seen that most of the think tank they have residential and non-residential staffs who are some of them they are basically attending the critical office, and others they are kind of utilizing their free time and they are engaged or living or maybe studying somewhere else after their village. And just wanted to check with you again, if you talk about the pace at which Nepal is seeing the growth in diaspora. So I was reading some report a few days back that in case of Australia, if you see the growth of Nepali arrivals in Australia, I think during last 6 months or before the pandemic and immediately after the pandemic, it has grown by 125%. So that means every following year we have been seeing a lot of youth aiming for a good education, good opportunities and good exposure going outside Nepal. And by kind of spending their time there, I think they will definitely have good education and also they will have some sort of good education.
Because there are a lot of mandates and there are a lot of governments to bringing into the country. So one thing is that, and second thing is we have not been able to tap on that because we have so many NRIs right outside the country who are really willing to bring their money into Nepal, invest in projects, invest in new startups. For some odd reason, we have not been the business community. I would also like to give to the business community. As the business community, we have not been able to really channelize that into the system. More than that, if we look at it locally itself, so I was talking about the startup fest, right? So we had opened an application and we received over 300 applications. And then we filtered, then we put 10 applications, out of which I think 7 applicants, got mandate for funding. So we just scratched the surface. If I have to go out today, across Nepal, and the challenge fund that the government took out, of 1 billion rupees, and if as a private sector, organization, if we are like a match that, if we are collaborate and go out in the market and seek for new businesses or new entrepreneurs wishing to start this, I'm sure it would be it would be tune of thousands or even 100,000. Because if you see today we have a very young and dynamic population, who understand English, who speak English, and who are well versed with studies. So that is why, because of lack of opportunity or lack of thought that they would want to be an entrepreneur in Nepal, we are seeing such a huge migration. What is happening? Their families are spending say $8,000, $10,000, $15,000. They're sending them outside, but they go there and they're working there as a maybe a daily wage worker or something like that. So if we are able to create an ecosystem in Nepal with few policy changes, or with few, maybe say, monetary or non-monetary incentives, and we encourage this, the young entrepreneurs who are here or who are outside to come back to Nepal and start their business. I think all the other things would, fall in place. The money would come itself. There would be an investment in the, infrastructure ecosystem. That's what happened in India. I mean, how many people elaborate more on that? But if you see in India also, I mean, all this, thought I talk about, startup and entrepreneurship, I think it's like a 10-year-old, thing. Because even I was in India studying during my graduation. At the time, even in India I saw there was there was a thought and aspiration of moving out as soon as you finish the study. But today, because of all this, the whole thought of the government to start the startup India movement and all these things, all these have gone a long way, in drawing on. So I think it is a mix of all these efforts. If we are able to do few key efforts, I mean it would just instinct an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and then we can be mindful of where we are right now.
Thank you, Rosie. I think on this particular part, Nepal Raster, they are trying to address for that. So now moving forward, I will come to Prasanna again. So again, I mean one of the key indicators that we have seen in our analysis was how gender-wise indicators perform. And we're it's sort of narrative findings that compared to men, women are kind of behind across all the indicators, and that has been terribly affecting us across the provinces. So maybe do you have any overall solution for the fellow women or students who would also like to engage in similar activities?
Different options and different policies made for empowering or supporting women in Nepal. We should thank the government, we should thank NRB, the financial institutions that compel to let at least 10 women from every branch within Nepal. So that also encourages women to come in the front line to start a business. So accordingly, they can borrow without collateral up to 15 lakhs rupees, etc., etc. And I just see that the girls are coming forward, and we see a lot of female candidates in every sector, and even in businesses they are coming forward. In case of Nepal, I feel we are doing much better than the education. Literacy is something very important, and I feel me also being a girl, like around less than 40 years, I started my work. This is all education, and I would like to say that the girls or the women are doing very good. There are a lot of activities happening around.
Leadership Academy in Nepal. I just came to the and it's wonderfully done. Congratulations to the entire team and to the Singapore government. Very well done. My question is to the private sector, maybe Mr. Gupta and to Dr. George. What would you recommend as 3 policy changes that might enhance or improve Nepal's competitiveness? In your experience working in India, Mr. Gupta's Indonesia and Mr. Gupta's experience in working in Nepal, because as the report says, the only way to develop our country would be to increase the competitiveness as a whole. So what would be 3 major policy changes that you might recommend? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, coming from the India experience, at least since 2014, once the Modi government came into power, the country has opened up tremendously. The Make in India initiative happened, and as Rohit mentioned previously, states are competing now between themselves into gathering a lot more investments into the country. And if you consider India's context, we kind of leapfrog from agriculture to services directly. So our skills or the human capital in the country has been highly specialized. So over a span of perhaps past 5, maybe 8 years, the trajectory of the economy in terms of growth and opening up has been tremendous. So in terms of the policy making perspective, I would say after the Modi government came into power, the subnational governments, which also follows the same party as the national government, the bureaucratic processes in attracting investment has largely been simplified. It could be due to the Make in India initiative, it could be due to the state level initiatives that the government has done. So more stress on reducing the bureaucratic hurdles in attracting the investment has definitely benefited the country. So I would say that was like the major kind of policy appeal that kind of has brought the economy on track. Of course, right now the pandemic has happened, and there's been a lot of turmoil on account of that. But then hopefully we would rebound and be strong. Hopefully so.
Thank you, sir, for the question. So, first thing I would say is liberalization. When I say liberalization, it does not really mean getting FDA approval, right? I mean, as a local business person or organization, we should also be able to go out and compete with the best. That is how we be able to increase the mandate. So, first thing would be to also allow businesses to venture out and expand themselves. If they are able to do that, we also able to get 40, FDI, and we are also able to compete with the best, even in Nepal and outside. So I think first would be that. Second would be decentralization of the provincial system. I think this has been a biggest problem right now. Everything is still centralized and the provincial governments do not have much of accountability or authority. I think that should happen sooner or later if we are to get the best potential out of all the policies that we have. And the third would be skilling as a movement. Today also in a lot of sectors, in a lot of industries, we are including manpower, and in one side we have a big problem, and on the other side we are including manpower from making countries to be able to fulfill our requirements. So government should take skilling as a movement into its core policy so that we are able to train, develop and skill the youth within the country, which will not only enable us as an industry to get to manpower, but these people can also in future become an entrepreneur themselves. So I think these would be the three things that I would talk about. Thank you.
International relations, the relationship and policy of TU, and I'm from China. So my questions are related to your previous question about ITI environment in Nepal, and how do you think whether Nepal is ready for the big investment? As you mentioned, there are a lot of heavy power big investments projects happening in Nepal from China. But actually, as far as I know, the Chinese companies are not, they're losing money. And in the issue of the heavy power projects, in India, the government denied to buy the electricity from these kind of Chinese investment projects. So my question is Nepal ready for the big investors? Because China is losing money.
Really very important investment. If you know Monkey right, they big idea in about 2 years back. If you go and ask them today, I'm sure that they are almost recovered on the implementation that they are doing. That is why I think as an investor, in companies that we have, if you look at the GDP of Nepal, we are around 37 billion something. We are close to India an aspiration of 5 billion GDP by 2025. So this no doubt that Nepal will be a 100 million GDP next year. So in terms of investment potential, definitely there is a lot of difference, right? So we are in India and China, we are always squeezed by the local diplomacy that is the practicing. But having said that, there are still a lot of other sectors like rural trade, I see most Chinese companies more active in Nepal, and I'm sure all the investment would be very well taken care of, and they would get the best return.
Privileges you have done, so I congratulate you all. So I think on the panelists, if you appreciate the panelists also share their views, but I want to know from something from Jersey or some group member, the research member. Well, in your research, the government institutional setting of provincial level. So we, after 2015 constitution, have a federal structure. And as per the federal constitution 2015, so every provinces have similar constitutional provision. However, it seems like that the institutional and government setting is similar, but the competitiveness is quite different in your research report. So what did you find out the reason behind? What made them to make difference in their service delivery and competitiveness? Even if having a similar structural setting, probably political knowledge and civil literacy or economic and mobility might be different, and some other indicators. So I just would like to know what the reason behind, even if having a similar structure, what makes differences in competitiveness if after the provincial like federal structure has been introduced in the law. That was my curiosity from the researcher especially. Jerry is there, I'm not sure, so thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I think we will take these two questions to the last question for the session. Maybe I will first address Dr. Casey's query. So definitely, so one of the key reasons why we wanted to do these studies that Nepal moved into federalism, we used to hear a lot of narrative stories around that. So having someone who was again born and schooled in Karnataka province, I could hear a lot of people comparing Manali whenever there is something very worse. Actually, if they go outside Kathmandu, if they see some poor sort of village out there, they will say with me, okay, Larry, come on, this looks like Jumla. So I used to get surprised by the way they try to compare different places or provinces by using narrative stories without using any data. So I think through this particular study, we have tried to minimize those sort of arguments, rather have some data. Rather, if someone comes and tells me that, okay, your village Zumba seems to be far behind by this particular village in Kathmandu, by these particular indicators. In that case, I will not only get constructive feedback from those colleagues, but also I would get some sort of quantitative measures on which I can take actions to improve the overall conditions of my village, my hometown. So again, I mean like after the constitution of like 2015 and again after a local election in 2017, we formally started the first phase of experimentation with federal governance. So definitely I mean, we have a constitution and all the provinces, I think they also have similar legal and constitutional jurisdictions. But still they are not able to form equally across all the indicators, including those for institutional and government for political reasons. So one of the indicators that was quite interesting for us, and I think that we included for the analysis for the part to make it more contextual was that we checked in our report and like the government at the provincial level and the government at the federal level and the pace at which the provincial government was coming up with new policies and passing the bills. So we found that like let's say if we have government at the federal level which is being ruled by two major parties, let's say A and B, and then there is one more party which is third largest party, party C, and if we have one province which is again ruled by coalition government from party A and B, so in that case we found that the provincial government was finding it quite easy and convenient to come up with new policies, pass the bills and communicate those bills with the federal government and get the funding. But let's say if one of the provinces it has government formed by party C, which again contrast in number of ideologies and other political things with the parties that are forming their government at the federal level, party A and B. So in that case, we found that party C, though despite coming up with so many unique policies and plans for the provincial and local level development, so they are finding it very hard to pass those bills, and even if they pass from the provincial parliament, they are not able to get sufficient support from federal government. So in that sense, I mean like, so the provinces which had same parties at the provincial level and at the federal level, they seems to have done pretty well between 18 and 19. But the province which was being governed by different parties between 2018 and 19, so it seems to have been suffering a lot during that particular time, in addition to other indicators. And also, I think Rohit highlighted earlier as well. So I mean like we consider these 5 years, which I think at the local level we just completed, and at the provincial and federal level we will be completing after the election later this year, the first phase of experimentation with federalism. Right? I think Nepal has been centralized for so many years, more than centuries. So I think things couldn't transform right away. Maybe like there will be some sort of tweaks and some sort of struggles, power struggles between the federal government and provincial government, because I mean even those who are governing the provincial institutions, they also need some authority and some right over the local resources and local institutions. But that's not happening the way we plan for the federalism. And we doubt that will happen within the next second phase of federal experimentation. That will definitely take a few more years before we could see some sort of impacts of federalism at the provincial planning and policy, and how the provincial competitiveness of 7 provinces of Nepal.
Thank you. I hope I answered your question. My question directly related to the research, but since GIA is also planning to work with national think tanks, so my question would be the status of national think tanks. The question would be entirely to the Ripori team. Since there are several national think tanks like Ripori, IIJ, working actively here in the federal session, doing lobbying for the policy analysis, research, dialogue, policy communication, as all these things you are doing here. So regarding what will this study, since you have visited throughout the country, throughout the nation,
So now I would like to ask you that what is the existence of this local or sub-national policy think tanks at the provincial or local level? If they exist, are they active enough to knock the doors of provincial and local governments regarding policy needs, analysis, gap research, and all these things? What is the status? Since I said that since we are planning to work with the national think tank in the near future, so this is the query. My query. So can you elaborate on this or your experience regarding these issues? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Naresh. Thank you for the opportunity. My query is simple about the reflection of the competitiveness, the real societal problem and the competitiveness index, whether that will represent or not. So, for example, in the past, you all know that the reports are prepared based on the fiscal data and other government data, farmer data, and the budget is planned, expenditure is made, but objectives are the results, intended results are achieved. So that means the budget was intended to change the ultimate situation, but that didn't happen because of the poor performance of the railway. From the beneficiary perspective, the objective is not achieved, the competitiveness is not here now, it's not improved as intended. But from the fiscal government budgetary perspective, the data show that it is achieved because you made the expenditure and as intended. So how this situation is reflected in its competitiveness and what is the reason to address this the issue?
Thank you, sir. Was asked us query first. We'll come to Narayan sir's query. So, I mean, like, being someone who is engaged in think tank sector for a while, so recently we have been able to meet and interact with so many individual researchers and institutional researchers from across the country. So previously, when I was in my graduate school, it was very rare for me to go to the governments or district level to find some think tanks or research institutions. So NGOs are very common then, and they are still there. But when it comes to research institutions, it was very rare during that time. So I think, especially after Nepal going much better, I think there are definitely few think tanks or research institutions slowly getting started at the provincial levels. And maybe if you need some of the list of some of the similar institutions across provinces, maybe we'll be happy to have a chat sometime pretty soon, or maybe via email, and we'll be more than happy to provide a list of some of the think tanks based at the provincial level, which we think are having a great start at the moment. And I think based on their performance so far, we could hope their contribution to the provincial policy making will be quite huge in the coming years. And coming back to one of the questions, so definitely I think the issue that you highlighted is one of the reasons why we also wanted not to call NCI the current report the EE itself, right? I think it is work in progress. So definitely it's not only about competitiveness, and there has been questions related to GDP for quite so many years. And so our main is simple, so GDP doesn't capture the overall development status of the country or the economy. So definitely it is not able to cover all aspects of development of the economy. But I think at least we have tried to have some measures so that the key policy stakeholders from the government, partners and private sector, they can work on, right? So maybe slowly they can integrate more component into that so that the overall idea of the will get better in the future. So that's I think in the recent years, especially I think in 2017 or 2018, when behavioral sciences Nobel Prize in economic sciences was a work on knowledge for theory of knowledge and other behavioral sciences. I think the focus of the institution students and professors and students has been increasing to our social sciences recently. And especially again after I think 2007 global financial crisis, there is a belief, a particular sector of academician which is that economics, pure economics has failed us. So maybe we need to include the idea of economics or economic theory by incorporating other aspects of human life and society, so that we can make the idea of economic theory more sort of inclusive. Right? Relating that particular aspect to NC, actually every time like we weren't playing, or I'm like Dr. Zangi said, like together with AGI, we would never claim that our report is perfect and includes every aspect of computer based. So in the coming years, we'll definitely be incorporating more and more indicators across the sector. So let's say that if we are able to get some timely data, either from our own source or from some critical sources that help us to analyze social and cultural aspect of different provinces and incorporate into the main and the kind of thing. Analysis will be more than happy to do that. That way we will be improving the overall inclusiveness and I think the quality of research in the coming years. Thank you. So I think we have last questions. So after
my name is Neela Rajiv and I represent the Federation of Women Entrepreneurs Association of Nepal. We work with women entrepreneurs within MSME, micro, small and medium industry. My second question is just a concern and my question is towards Dr. Vishwas Kochhar. When we work for the empowerment of women, economic empowerment of women entrepreneurs, we do not have enough data and information regarding their skills, local resources, local raw material, and it's very, very difficult. And now, when I hear when I heard you don't have so much of resources, so much of data and information, and there's a big gap. Because we work towards the policy dialogue and we do advocacy, but we are missing those kind of very important information. So, how do we go forward? Collaborating with you to take this advocacy, this kind of issues forward to the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. We don't have data as yet. We are trying to scramble for data across different agencies that are producing different level of data. But we are trying. We are trying and we are trying to have our own data lab in IITs. And there are certain priorities. We are going to start with priorities. For example, very soon, with the help of some of the stakeholders, we are trying to launch hotel occupancy index. And that's going to be a high frequency data. Every day you will get a data of hotel occupancy in the country, across the country. That's one thing that we plan to do. Second, we are trying to also have industrial index. I mean, it's very surprising that we don't have any index of industrial products. And then we are trying to work on that front, and we are trying to partner with the CNI along with Brigham University. And we have identified around 5 or 6 indexes, and within next 1 to 3 years, we are launching these indexes, and which is going to complement some of the wonderful works that other thinkers are doing. Okay, and frankly, that's one major areas we really have to work, and we need this collaboration of all the stakeholders, private sectors, universities. I think universities, very sadly, I have to say that they have not been proactive. Actually, they are the ones to lead, some of these initiatives, and we have, thanks God, that we are going to have Policy Research Institute as an apex research institute in the country. I just heard that they are going to have new act being passed by the parliament, and we have to collaborate. And these are national institutions, and we private, public think tanks. We have to collaborate on these. Lots of gaps there in this domain.
So hopefully we'll get to have those kind of information in the future.
So we have reached towards the end of the program. So before we wrap up the program, we have some token awards. Representative, can you come on the stage? Thank you, Dr. Zain.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you around and the different questions and listening from Jayajis and the report that has been out. I mean, talking about data, it's one of the worst thing in Nepal is like we don't have proper data, or we don't have data, as I would like to say. We always have to refer very, very old data, and still that is also very scarce. That is something like Dr. Vishwas mentioned, that we need to collaborate. Yes, we need to collaborate with different sectors to collect data and to have a proper analysis and to move forward. Thank you so much on that. And regarding the publishing of this report, I'm sure like many private sectors would be, or they have already gone to the different provinces for the development or to set their industry there because they know what is there. But with this report, it does help. You know, we have different resources in different provinces which are still not explored, but we have mentioned in this book. So that does help the private sectors to invest, and they are already interested. We talk about, the Sudar Paschim or Karnataka being very undeveloped, or, they are not developed, or they are very far behind in comparison to different other provinces. But what I know is like there are already many industries that they have eyed to be there, especially tourism. Many hotels have been already established or they are in the process. And other industries like UNG mentioned about the hydro. And because of the Ayurveda being available, or different resources that is available, so that has been targeted. And at the same time, again, I repeat, this report will definitely help. And thank you so much for being here. It's a great pleasure for us. Thank you so much. Thank you.